I've been wrestling with purpose. What was I created for? I'm more than what you see on the surface. See beneath my skin and scars, I'm skinned and scarred. Marred and twisted, scarred by the past I need to be lifted. And sometimes I question my own existence. What was I put here for? In my seams, it seems that there seems to be more. It's like I'm a light, unplugged from the socket. I mean, do I really exist to put money in my pocket? This 9 to 5 feels like a 9 to 9. My mind entwined, I pass the time, life circles me as I wait. What is my estate? I feel like I was made for something great, and yet I can't quite put my finger on it. But when I look at my fingers and I see their design, I realize I'm one of a kind, and something created me. No, someone created me. And that someone made me for a reason. Even though it's clear the past years have been treason, I still sense this drawing, this calling, that even in the midst of my falling, there was someone who died to pick me up, someone who rose to fix me up, someone who's coming back to lift me up. And that someone is Jesus. See, God made me for a purpose, and when I delight in Him, it's brought to the surface.
Well, good morning again. Brewster, thanks for tuning in today. If you're online watching right now or throughout the week, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us. We really appreciate it. If I haven't met you before, my name is Graham. I work here at Real Life, mostly hanging out with teenagers. That's my favorite part of my job, unapologetically. And if you don't know anything about me, here's a couple pictures that depict my life. Okay, I do not like hiking. But you wouldn't know that if these are the only pictures that you saw. Okay, so if you know me well, you know that this is the extent of my hiking career. Okay, I know it's an unpopular opinion because it's cool to hike. You know, it's like you get those Instagrammable pictures, you get, you know, a healthy lifestyle, you get to wear Patagonia, like it's cool to hike. I don't like it. I don't like it. Here's my synopsis. You walk in the dirt as you stare at the ground, and you talk to somebody who's behind you, but they can never hear you. So you're constantly doing this, and then talking this way, and then you end up at the top of a mountain that you could have seen on somebody else's Instagram anyways. I don't like hiking. Now, let me rephrase this. I want to like hiking. I want to like hiking. But I'm so far away from hiking, I don't even want to hike, right? When I travel, when I like to spend my free time, my free money, I like to travel and I like to eat, all right? These are some pictures of what I like to do. I have more pictures, so I was looking through my pictures, and Kayla and I got to go to Savannah, Georgia a couple years ago. In Charleston, a lot of good food down there. Hit me up if you want some recommendations. I was like, I have more pictures of food on this one trip than all of my hiking pictures combined. I was like, this is a problem. And not only do I like to travel and eat, I really like to eat seafood. Who's with me? Yes. Oh my gosh. If it tastes like the ocean, I want to eat it. If you could take rocks out of the ocean and boil them, I would probably eat them still. I love it. Seafood. Doesn't even have to be good seafood. Gas station seafood. I'm down. If it tastes like the ocean, I am in. This picture here on the right is a picture of the love of my life and my wife, Kayla. That's how much I love seafood. That's how much I love seafood. That's the background on my phone. Just the two things I want most in life. All right? I love it. And the thing is, the way we spend our free time, right, is a window into our souls. Right? The way that we choose to spend our extra money, our extra time, our weekends, our evenings, the things we'll get up early for or stay up late for, they're a little depiction to each of us of what we think the good life is. Right? When I get to travel, when I get to get on a plane, I get to go to another country and I get to eat food that I can't get here, right? To me, somewhere deep down inside, it says, Graham, you made it. So much more than being on top of a mountain, right? These are pictures of what I think the good life is. And they look like food. Now, for the record, this cake up here, this coconut cake, if you ever go to Charleston, it's the dessert of Charleston. If you go to the city, you have to have this dessert. And they don't give you the recipe, but I think I've figured it out. The cake is made out of manna that is dropped from heaven every night, and the frosting is mixed with cocaine. It is just incredible. You can't find anything better. But this, to me, again, this is the good life. This is what I've made it. This is what Kayla and I spend our extra time, our extra money on. Travel and food. This is part of the liturgy of our lives. And liturgy is usually associated with church. I went to we would call it liturgical church growing up. That means kind of traditional is what most people think it means, but liturgy is just a particular arrangement of services. Every church has a liturgy. If you've been coming here for any amount of time, you know we kind of do the same thing every week, right? We add a couple different things here and there, but we have a liturgy to our service, and the reality is you have a liturgy to your life as well. I bet you your Sundays and your Mondays probably look pretty similar every single week. Which is why I'll see half of you at Walmart after this, right? Because you come to church, you finish your grocery pickup right before church starts, and you click the time so you can go pick it up right after church. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of your liturgy. And you have a liturgy to your days, and you have a liturgy to your weeks, you have a liturgy to your months, to your seasons, probably your decades, the seasons of life that you're in, young and single, married, and have young kids, stuff like that. You have a liturgy. And that liturgy will tell you what you think in life is worth pursuing. Now, Kayla and I love to travel, and as I said, we got to go to Charleston and we got to go to Savannah, Georgia, both great food cities, if you like food. And in Savannah is one of the first and surviving planned cities in the United States. And so it's a big grid, and every couple blocks is a park or a square. And they were meant to be gathering places for people. And in this one park called Chippewa Square is where the famous scene from Forrest Gump was filmed, where he sits on the bench and he tells everyone that life is like a box of chocolates. Now, in reality, there's no bench there. That's why we're not sitting on one in the picture. They added that for the movie. I don't know why they didn't keep it in. That makes way more sense to me. Maybe they didn't think the movie was going to be that great. But the bench is in a museum somewhere else, so we took a picture in Chippewa Square because life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Except for you kind of do. Right? Am I the only one who watched that movie, even as I think I was 10 or something when it came out? And I remember watching that movie, and Forrest, he's handing the chocolates to everybody who comes up. No one takes one, which is just a good life rule, to not take chocolate from a stranger on a park bench. And he's always saying, life is like a box of chocolate. And so as a kid, I thought to myself, why doesn't he turn the lid over? There's a diagram inside. It will save you from accidentally getting the one that's filled with orange cream, okay? Nobody likes that one. And I was like, Forrest Gump's mom never taught him that there's a diagram inside? Because most of us know what we want in life. Most of us know what we're pursuing, and our liturgy, our daily, weekly, monthly, seasonal liturgy, will point us in that direction. Jeff Dyer says, your deepest desire is the one manifested by your daily life and habit. Now, another cool trip I got to go on this last February was I went to Guatemala. And in Guatemala, there's the biggest Mayan ruins in the world. And the only way I can describe them is if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon and you're like looking at it and you're like, but it doesn't look real. But it's like there, but it doesn't look real at the same time. The Mayan ruins in Tikal are the same way. Now, each of these ruins were built by hand, right? Not like the ones in Egypt, which were built by aliens. These ones were built by hand. Each rock was quarried out miles away from Tikal. It was carried in, and they were stacked on top of each other. And it's not like there's like one or two of them. There's almost 20. And they're all around 15 to 17 stories tall. And it's incredible. And because it's Guatemala, it's like you can touch them, you can climb up on them, you can do whatever you want. Like, it's cool. It's only like 1,000,000 years old. And it got me thinking while I was there, like, what would possess a man to quarry out a rock, carry it miles through the jungle, just like sand it down and cut it perfectly so it will fit inside of these other rocks, like 10 stories off the ground, and then the next day go back to the quarry and do the exact same thing? Like, what would possess a man to do that? And for most of us, it doesn't feel like we do something weird like that every day. We don't go out and quarry rocks in hopes of making the Jaguar King happy. But we do a lot of other weird stuff. A lot of us got to the end of high school. We spent 4 years devoted to a sport. We gave up weekends. We gave up dinners with our family. We spent thousands of dollars on equipment. We went to camp in the summer just so that we could never play that sport again after high school. Or maybe you spent 10 years and you were grinding away and you were working super hard and you're going to try to make junior partner or you're going to try to become a co-owner or something like that, telling your spouse the whole time, hey, we'll take that trip someday, we'll take that trip someday. Or maybe we spend 20 years neglecting our health, neglecting our relationships, and at one point we have kids who graduate and they leave our house and we're like, I don't really even know them. We spend a lot of time doing a lot of dumb things. And it might not look like carrying rocks, but it's a good depiction of what we think the good life looks like. There's a goal there that we're trying to get to. So what is it that you want? Like, what do you really want? Like, if you sit in that question for a little bit, let it weigh on you. Like, what do you want? What do you love? And if you actually got it, would it make you happy? I mean, think about it. If you actually got skinny, would it make you happy? Would it fill that void? If you actually got a promotion, would it fill that void? Would it make you happy? If you got into the school of your dreams, if you got married, if you found the right one, would you actually be satisfied? Because our lives are currently filled with the things our prior selves thought would satisfy us. And they didn't. So what do you want? What do you really want? Now what's crazy is Jesus asks this question, in my opinion, way too many times for a guy who's all-knowing, okay? But he's constantly asking people, hey, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Shouldn't you know, Jesus? Okay? In the book of Mark, he asked Bartimaeus, the blind man, hey, what do you want? Seems pretty obvious. Later on, he talks to another blind beggar, hey, what do you want me to do for you? In the book of Matthew, he runs into a few blind men in Jericho, hey, what do you want? And then he runs into this guy who's been sick for 38 years and says, do you want to be well? What do you want? In the Gospel of Mark, there's this times when James and John approach Jesus and they say, hey, Jesus, we need to bend your ear for a second. We got a request for you. And he says, what do you want? And they say, grant us that one might sit at your right and one at your left in your glory. So they think that Jesus is probably going to become like the Caesar of Rome or something like that. He's going to take over like physically here on earth. So they say, grant us that one might sit at your right and one at your left in your glory. And Jesus says to them, you don't even know what you're asking. You don't even know what you want. I was watching TV the other day with my son, and this weird commercial comes on, and immediately I looked at him and I go, this is a cologne commercial. And he goes, how do you know? I said, because they're so weird. You ever seen a cologne commercial? It's like Johnny Depp riding a tiger across the ocean. And it's just like, what? How does this tell me what this smells like? But perfume and cologne commercials, they can't give you the fragrance. At least my TV doesn't do that yet. I mean, I'm watching TV with a 13-year-old boy, so there's a fragrance in the room, but it's not Giorgio Armani, okay? But they can't give you the fragrance, right? So they have to depict this dreamlike life for you. And just a couple sprays, and you'll look just like Johnny Depp. But we all do something like that, right? We add these things to our lives, whether it's cologne, or whether it's our clothing, or whether it's social media, or whether it's adding zeros to our bank account. Whatever it is, we add these things to our life because we think that if we stack all these up, it will provide the life that we're looking for. A few months ago, Megan, one of our other pastors on staff, gave me this book by James Smith. And he says, some panoramic tableau of what looks like flourishing has an alluring power that attracts us, daring us towards us. And thus we live and work toward that goal. We get pulled into a way of life that seems to be the way to arrive at that world. So we work more, we exercise more, we drink more, we post more, we buy more. And we rearrange the liturgies of our life, our schedules, and our habits to try to arrive in that world. And it's easy sometimes, to see it in other people's lives, and you look and you're like, why does he spend so much time at work? Why is he not home with his kids? Or why does she always have to post the new toys and the new house and the new outfit? Right? Why are they always spending money on those things? Why did they buy that boat, that RV, that second home? Why are they doing that? It's easy to see in other people's lives. We will say, why would they arrange the liturgy of their life like that? And I love this quote. It says, what you love will affect everything else. It will decide what will get you out of bed in the morning and what you will do with your evening. How you spend your weekend, what you read, whom you know, what breaks your heart, where you spend your money, and what amazes you with joy and gratitude. What do you want? What does the liturgy of your life suggest that you want? And if you're not sure, pull open your calendar. Look at your nights and weekends. If you have a budgeting app or you can get on your bank website, look and see where your money goes, especially your extra money. That'll show us exactly where our heart is, what we want, what we believe will get us to the good life. And it might be that you don't know. You might stop and be like, man, I actually don't really know what I'm pursuing. I think I should take a second and figure out what I think the good life looks like. Carl Jung, the most famous psychologist that no one's ever heard of, says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Do you want to know why you can't ever lose the weight? Why the finances can never be stable? Do you want to know why the relationship always ends at the same point? Do you want to know why your spiritual life always seems to kind of hit some kind of rock bottom and can't break through to a deeper level? It's because you have an unconscious liturgy in your life that is controlling that. And until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives. But it is not fate. It is something much more powerful. So when we go back to the Gospel of Mark, and James and John ask this question, and they don't even know what they're getting into. And they ask Jesus, can we sit on your right and your left? And then we pick this verse back up and it says, now when the other 10 disciples heard this, they became angry with James and John. Because James and John were saying, hey, we want to be above even these other clowns. So Jesus calls them all together. He's like, all right, guys, huddle up. And he says, you know that those who are recognized as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those in high positions use their authority over them. But it is not this way among you. See, Jesus says, I know what you want or what you think you want, but that's not what you should want. He says, let me tell you instead what you should want. Instead, whoever wants to be great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must be the slave of all. For even the Son of Man, which is a nickname Jesus gave himself, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for the many. You see, James and John show up and they say, hey, God, we want to sit, or Jesus, we want to sit at your right and your left. We want to have authority. We want to rule over people. We want to be able to snap our fingers and somebody feeds us grapes while we're laying on a chaise lounge. And Jesus says, you don't get it. You want the wrong stuff. And Jesus is constantly telling people there is no life at the end of that. You can follow that liturgy all the way to the end, and it only leads to death. If you want to really live, you have to pursue the outcast. You have to pursue the orphan, the widow, the person who has nobody to represent them. You have to put yourself in lowly positions. You have to give up your power. And even Jesus himself says, I have come to serve, to be a slave, to give up my life. If you want to have real life, that's how you find it. It's not by having authority. It's not by sitting at my right or left hand. It's by giving it up. And for those of us that call ourselves Christians, that are trying to do this thing in pursuit of God, if we look around and we see that our pace and our liturgy of life looks just like people who don't call themselves Christians, that should be a little alarming, because that is not the life God has called you to. Here's the question to ask. Does the liturgy of your life draw you towards the poor, the marginalized, and the outcast? Does it pull you to lowly positions of service to others? Because if it doesn't, it might not be the liturgy of Christ, or the life of Christ that he's called you to. So what do you want? What do you really want? Just be honest with yourself. What do you want? And here's the beauty of it. If it's not this, we can change that. Now, I graduated high school at 160 pounds. And after 1 year in college, I successfully completed my freshman 15 at 175 pounds. Okay? The only thing that changed from my senior year of high school to my freshman year of college was my liturgy, right? That I had access to way too much food and no discipline, right? And I remember sitting, my freshman year of college, I remember sitting with my buddy Tyson, and we would go and we'd buy cubes of soda and just drink it. And then we'd go and, we'd have like pop with breakfast. Like, that's how immature we were. Like, I'm telling you, 18-year-old boys are not ready for college yet. We need a few more years, okay? And at one point, Tyson and I looked at each other and we were like, maybe we should drink diet soda, right? We're like, maybe that's the problem. Okay? It's not the 9 pizza pockets we had last night. It's got to be the soda. So him and I, because we'd always buy soda together, we'd split these cubes of soda. And we started drinking Diet Coke. Did not like it at all. Can I tell you something? It's now my drug of choice. I love Diet Coke. I love it. And I know some of you are like, Graham, do you know what's in it? Yes, it's delicious, okay? I love Diet Coke. My kids know, because before youth group, I got into this bad habit. On Sundays, I'd stop by Shell because it's the cheapest place to get it. $1.51, you can get the biggest one possible. And I was on a first-name basis with the guy who worked that shift, right? I would go in, I put $1.51 on the counter. He knew exactly what I was doing. He'd say, hey, Graham. I'd say, hey, Steve, and I'd go to youth group, all right? My kids know. I'll show up sometimes, occasionally. I'm trying to cut back a little bit. You know what? Celebrate Recovery is on Thursday nights. Maybe I should check out. And my kids know if I show up with the blue Pepsi cup from Shell, they're like, oh, did you go talk to Steve? I'm like, yeah, I talked to Steve. So even if Steve's not there, I love Diet Coke now. Your desires can be changed. But in order to do that, you have to change your liturgy. Okay, to change your liturgy, you have to change your habits, to change your desires, to change yourself. Do you want to know how your friend lost all that weight and kept it off? They changed their liturgy. Do you want to know how your friends kept their failing marriage together? They changed their liturgy. How they got out of debt? They changed their liturgy. How they got clean and sober? Liturgy. Do you want to know how they desired prayer? How they desired to read their Bible, to show up to church, to get into a small group, to serve? They changed their liturgy. You see, I told you that I don't like hiking. I want to be somebody who wants to like hiking, but I'm not there yet. And that's all fun when you're talking about hiking or eating cake made out of cocaine, right? But it's very different when you're talking about your spiritual life. About 20 years ago, man, I hate saying that. It makes me feel so old. About 20 years ago, I was an intern at a camp up on the coast of British Columbia. And I had a year of college under my belt. I was studying to be a youth pastor. And here I'm spending my whole summer devoted to youth ministry. And there was a pickup game of basketball that was happening. And I've always thought if ministry doesn't work out, I'll fall back on the NBA. So I was headed to play pickup basketball. And I ran into this kid named Ben Rifle. I still remember his name because Rifle's a cool last name. And I didn't know if he played basketball, but he looked pretty athletic. And as I passed him going to the gym, I was like, "Hey, Ben, we're going to go play pickup basketball. Do you want to play with us?" And he's like, "Oh, man, I can't." And he's like so excited. And I was like, "Oh, well, what's going on, man?" Because it's not a big place. There's not a lot going on, right? And he's like, "Oh, I can't." He says, "Down in the auditorium, there's some people that are offering prayer for anyone who wants to come in. Do you want to go?" And I'm like, he's so excited. He looks like Taylor Swift is giving out free kisses down there, right? But he's like, they're offering free prayer. And he's like, "Do you want to go?" And then me, the theology student who's getting ready to be a youth pastor, who's spending his summer devoted to youth ministry, I said no. And it felt so weird coming out of my body. Like I knew it was wrong. I was like, I'm supposed to say yes to this, right? Like I'm supposed to say, yes, I want to receive prayer. I'm going to be a pastor. I believe in the power of prayer. I'm going to tell other people to go get prayer. I'm going to pray for other people. Shouldn't I want to put my NBA dreams on hold for like 10 minutes to go receive prayer? But I didn't want to. And it didn't feel right. The liturgy of my life at that point was not to a place where I desired prayer. I had to make incremental changes in my liturgy to where I am today. Where if somebody was offering free prayer, because I've seen the power of prayer so many times now, because I've changed the way I do things, where I'm like, yeah, forget basketball. But I had to change my liturgy to get there. And for some of us, we have to make a big change, right? If we really want to change, if you're not into the Jesus thing and you really just want to change your finances or your relationships or your health or something like that, okay, but sometimes we have to make a big change. The German theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer says, if you board the wrong train, it's no use running along the corridor in the opposite direction. You got to get off the train. You have to change your liturgy drastically. And if we pause for a second and just look at our spiritual lives, how do we do that? In the book of John, we get a little tip on how to do this. In John 15:5, Jesus says, "I am the vine, you are the branches. The one who abides in me," and abide is kind of a cool word. It's very specific in here. Like, abide means to sit in, to be with, to not leave, to spend time with, to rub shoulders with. "The one who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, because apart from me, you can accomplish nothing." But what's the trick here? Who abides first? He who abides in me, and I in them. Speaker and author Jamie Winship says, "A person doesn't learn to abide. A person abides and then learns what happens as a result of abiding. A person doesn't find themselves with good friendships in 10 or 20 years. They call, they text, they invest, they show up when it's hard, they have difficult conversations, and in 10 or 20 years, they have deep relationships. A person doesn't just like Diet Coke. They drink it for 6 or 8 months, and then it tastes okay. And then about 10 years later, you're addicted to it. Right? A person doesn't wake up in their 50s, 60s, or 70s with great health. They invest in their body and in what they eat. And in their 50s or 60s or 70s, they find out the benefits of it. And a person doesn't just wake up one night with this sage-like wisdom and the Holy Spirit on speed dial, and they can open up the Bible and know exactly what it's saying. They abide in Christ for years and years and years, and as a result of that, they get a spiritual depth that I think we all desire. The only way I know how to have a life that has the fruit of Jesus is to live a life that looks like the life of Jesus. And we call this spiritual formation, right? And spiritual formation is kind of a weird phrase. Maybe it's something you've never even thought of before, but listen to this. Your spirit is being formed. You might not know how it's being formed, but I guarantee your spirit is being formed. With so many messages coming at us from so many different places, right? We are taught what to look like, what to be like, how to talk, what to listen to, all these different things. Your spirit is being formed, and thank God we live in a country where we can have some choice over what forms us. There can be a misunderstanding that spiritual formation is a course we do or a program we take, or that it's a kind of optional add-on for the overzealous Christian. But our spirit is being formed already. And just like everything else, just like if you're trying to work on your relationships or you're trying to work on your health or your finances or something else, when you start to change your liturgy of your spiritual life, it's awkward at first. Remember when you tried to get back into the gym and your alarm went off at that terrible hour and you didn't even know what was happening on the first day? You're like, what is that noise? And you put your shoes on and you walked outside and you're like, it's still dark out here. What am I doing? You showed up to the gym and all the regulars at that time kind of gave you a look like, oh, here's the new guy, right? It was probably January. Okay. And every step was awkward and hard, and it took effort. Have you ever tried to learn a new language? It's like every time I'm on Duolingo and I have to conjugate the verb, I have to think about it. And it's hard. And then I go to Guatemala in February, and everything is just right over my head. No entiendo. Right? It's hard when you start a new habit. It's awkward. It takes effort. And your spiritual life is no different. When you start getting out of bed a little earlier because you're going to spend some time in prayer and reading your Bible, it's hard. When you start reading your Bible for the very first time and you're like, I don't understand any of this, it's hard to be motivated to keep going. Maybe you pick up some kind of help around the church here. You're going to start working with kids, or you're going to lead a group, or you're going to join one of our teams that serves the community. And you're like, oh, I'm nervous about this. I've never done anything like this before. That's okay. That's how all habits start. They're a little awkward. And here's the thing when it comes to your spiritual life. There's no get spiritual quick scheme, okay? There's no Ozempic for sanctification, right? You got to put in the hard work. You've got to. To go back to James Smith, he says, our sanctification, which is the process of becoming holy and Christ-like, is more like a Weight Watchers program than listening to a book on tape. You can't just show up to church here one time, hear some clown in a backwards hat, and think my life is going to be changed. This is the easy part. The hard part is when you leave. But here's the thing. We can help you with that. It's kind of what we do, okay? In your notes, in your program today, there's a blue card. There's always a blue card, right? If you're new with us, we would love to know that you joined us. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to sell your information. Honestly, we're going to give you a phone call and ask you how you enjoyed it. You can even ignore that. You would be a fool because it's Sarah and she's the nicest person in the world. And then she's going to send you a free coffee just for filling out that card. So if you're new with us, we would just love to know that you were here today. But we also have these next steps on there. And if I'm being honest, we don't have a great liturgy as a church to follow up with these next steps, but we really do put a lot of effort into what they are. And I really believe that checking one of these boxes, following one of these steps, will grow you closer to a relationship with Jesus, will make your life look more like the life he lived. So let's just walk through these a little bit. First one is declare my true love. What do you actually love? And if you don't know, let's find out. Seriously, look over the last 3 months of your weekends. What did you spend your time doing? In the evenings, where were you putting your energy? If that doesn't tell you, look at your finances. Where especially does your extra money go? What is your true love? Because we have to make that unconscious liturgy conscious before we're going to know what we actually love. What does your schedule and your wallet tell you? And just admit that. Oh, I guess this is actually my true love. Second, choose a liturgy that points you towards Christ. A great question to ask with anything is, does this point me towards a life that looks like Jesus or away? Do the things that I have in my life direct me to look more like Jesus or not? And maybe for you, for the first time, maybe I know some of you have been on this little spiritual journey and you're kind of putting the pieces together, and we're so excited to do that with you, but maybe today is the day where you say, yeah, that's the life I want. This life of pursuing things that Instagram tells me are going to make me happy and they haven't yet, I'm done with that. I want to pursue something else, and this Jesus guy sounds like he might have it. And maybe today is your day where you say, you know what? I'm going to choose that liturgy. I'm going to start doing things that look like Jesus. I'm going to start showing up to church more. I'm going to start reading my Bible a little more. I'm going to go with the forgiveness route over the hate route. I'm going to start looking for people who are maybe outcast from society, and I'm going to roll with them for a while because that's what Jesus did. And maybe today is your day where you choose that liturgy, especially if you're young or you're single without kids, you have a lot of free time, you have a lot of play in your schedule. Maybe we choose to put that into a liturgy that looks like Jesus. Henry Scougal, who's a Scottish theologian, says, the worth and excellence of a soul can be determined by what it loved. Isn't that so true? Right? You don't go up to the cemetery and people have pictures of their boat and their giant house and their lifted truck. Right? It says things like beloved mother, daughter, and sister. Maybe friend or follower of Jesus. Because the worth and excellence of a soul is determined by what it loved, not by what we possessed. Lastly, add, remove, or replace something in your current liturgy. I want you to look through your daily schedule and be like, wow, I check ESPN for 30 minutes every morning while I'm eating my Fruit Loops, right? Maybe I could replace that with the Bible app. 3 nights a week, I seem to meet up with some of my friends and we just talk about nothing. Maybe they would like to get together and read a chapter of the Bible, right? Every single weekend, we're just at home or we're gone on some trip serving ourselves every single weekend. you know what, maybe I could join one of the teams at Real Life and I could get on board with something that they're doing and just give up one of my weekends. Maybe there's some things in your liturgy that you know are directing you away from God. And you just got to get rid of them. Maybe you need some help with that. Maybe you need an accountability partner with that. Or maybe you need to replace it with something else. But spiritual disciplines, which are different habits that we take on, different habits that Jesus had in his life, right? Maybe it's fasting, prayer, practicing Sabbath, tithing, solitude. Spiritual disciplines are the arenas in which we recalibrate our hearts. They remind us of what is truly important in our lives, what a real liturgy looks like. And if you have any questions about these, we would love, someone on our staff would love to take you to coffee. We would love to teach you about how spiritual disciplines have changed our lives. We would love to look through your calendar with you and show you little places where you can add, remove, or replace things. We would love to do that. Just mark that on your blue card and turn that in the box in the back. Let me pray for you, and then I'm going to kick you out of here. Father, I thank you so much for my friends here today. God, I ask that you would illuminate our liturgies, that you would shine the kind of your Holy Spirit on the parts that need to change, the parts that we need to get rid of, the parts we need to add to. God, I pray that there would be these like incredible moments in the next week where like these parts are highlighted, where we're like, man, God, you are speaking to me about this part of my life. I know that needs to change. Father, I pray that you would give us the courage to make those changes, and then I pray we would immediately see the benefit of that would steamroll us into more change into our lives until we just look weirder and weirder Christians and so much more like you. And I ask for that in the powerful name of Jesus Christ. Amen.